You hear the word diversity everywhere, right? It's a corporate buzzword, a social media headline, but what's it really all about when the rubber hits the road? Today, we're going to peel back the layers and get past the slogans. We're going to look at the real challenges, the complexities, and the incredible potential of diversity. So, let's dive in and really try to solve the diversity equation. So, here's our game plan. We're going to start by busting a huge myth, the so-called business case for diversity. Then we'll dig deeper, beyond what you can see on the surface, and explore a whole new way to think about our differences. We'll apply that to the real world, looking at the clash of generations and the super tricky topic of politics in the workplace. And finally, we'll get practical and talk about what it actually takes to make all these differences work for you, not against you. All right, let's kick things off with that business case. We've all heard the line, more diversity automatically means more profit. It sounds good, it feels right. But, as we're about to find out, the actual evidence tells a much more complicated and, frankly, a much more interesting story. This quote from the Harvard Business Review just nails it. It's not a numbers game. It's not about just having diversity. It's about what you do with it. It's not some magic ingredient you just sprinkle into the mix. It's an active process, one that demands real change in how power is structured. And check this out. There is a huge gap between what people believe and what's actually true. A survey of Harvard Business School alumni found that a whopping 76% of senior executives are convinced that a more diverse workforce directly improves financial performance. The belief is super strong, especially at the top. But guess what? Decades of research have really struggled to find a direct cause and effect link. And that really shows why this whole add diversity and stir recipe just doesn't fly. You can't just throw people from different backgrounds together and expect the stock price to go up. But, and this is so important, that does not mean diversity is useless. Far from it. When you do it right, the research is crystal clear. It can lead to higher quality work, smarter decisions, and way more satisfied teams. The payoff is real. It's just not a simple straight line to more cash. So, if we want to unlock all those good things, we've first got to get a better handle on what diversity even is. And that means we need to look past the obvious stuff, the things we see right away, and start paying attention to what's invisible. The best way to think about it is like an iceberg. What you see sticking out of the water, that's your surface level diversity. It's the stuff you notice immediately, someone's age, gender, race. But the vast majority of that iceberg is underwater. That's deep level diversity. It's all the unseen stuff, our values, our goals, our personalities, our knowledge. And honestly, it's that hidden part that can either cause the biggest problems or create the most incredible value. Now we can get even more specific. Instead of just surface and deep, there's a really smart framework that breaks diversity down into 3 totally distinct dimensions. And this is where we can really start to see how different kinds of difference affect a team's dynamic. This framework gives us a powerful new lens. It helps us see diversity through 3 dimensions: separation, variety, and disparity. Just at a glance, you can see they describe completely different patterns within a group. So let's dig into what each one of these really means. Okay, first up, we've got separation. For this one, I want you to picture a horizontal line, a spectrum. On one end, you have one opinion, and on the other, you have the total opposite. That's separation. It's all about disagreement, whether it's about the team's goals, its values, or its core beliefs. Next, there's variety. Now, this one isn't about arguing at all. It's about having different types of knowledge and experience in the room. Imagine a team with an engineer, a marketer, and a lawyer. They're not disagreeing. They're just bringing completely different toolkits to the project. The more variety you have, the bigger your pool of information and skills to draw from. And finally, we have disparity. Think of this one as vertical. It's all about hierarchy and power. Who has the higher rank? Who gets paid more? Who has the final say in a decision? High disparity means that power and resources are concentrated with just a few people at the top. So, to make this super clear, let's use a kind of fun example. Imagine Prince Harry joins your team tomorrow. Right away, you'd feel the disparity in status, right? A prince versus, well, not a prince. You might also have some separation in your personal opinions on the whole monarchy thing, and he would for sure bring a ton of variety with his unique first-hand knowledge of royal life. See? Just one person can introduce all 3 dimensions. Okay, let's take this framework and apply it to something we are all living through right now. For the first time in history, we have five, count 'em, five, distinct generations all working together. Talk about a massive, real-time experiment in diversity. This brings all three of those dimensions into sharp focus. So who are these five groups? You've got the traditionalists, shaped by massive events like the Great Depression and World War II. Then the baby boomers, who came of age during the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement. Generation X saw the Berlin Wall fall and the dawn of the personal computer. For millennials, our worldview was forged by 9/11 and the internet explosion. And now we have Gen Z, true digital natives, shaped by social media and the realities of climate change. Each generation carries the unique imprint of its time. And of course, those different imprints lead to totally different approaches at work. You can see the separation diversity in values, like the classic debate between paying your dues with long hours versus demanding work-life balance from day one. And you definitely see the variety diversity in skills. Some people are more comfortable with face-to-face meetings, while others live and breathe on Slack and digital tools. Neither one is better, but man, if you don't understand them, they can lead to some serious friction. All right, from generations, let's pivot to another form of deep-level diversity that's pretty much impossible to ignore these days, our political beliefs. I know this can feel like a total minefield at work, but what if there's actually a hidden upside to it all? I mean, the tension is undeniable. Just look at this data from a Cato survey. A full 50% of strong liberals support firing an executive for donating to Donald Trump, and 36% of strong conservatives feel the exact same way about a Biden donor. This isn't just a friendly disagreement anymore. This is a belief that certain political views should literally disqualify you from holding a job. The stakes have gotten incredibly high. And that tension is playing out in our daily work lives. About a third of employees, no matter which party they support, say they've had a hard time working with a colleague because of their politics. Many even say they felt disrespected or bullied. This shows the real human cost of this friction, which makes our next finding all the more surprising. Because here's the crazy twist. Even though it can feel so destructive, that political disagreement, that separation diversity, can actually lead to better results. A fascinating study of Wikipedia editors found that teams with higher political polarization actually produced higher quality articles. So why? Because they were constantly challenging each other's biases, fact-checking more rigorously, and ultimately forcing each other to build a more robust and neutral product. It turns out that conflict, when it's channeled the right way, can be an incredibly creative force. This brings us to the final and, let's be honest, the most important question of all. We've seen that diversity is complex, it's often messy, but it also holds incredible potential. So how do we get there? How do we move from all that conflict to collaboration and actually unlock those benefits? Well, the research points to a four-part strategy. First, you have to create psychological safety. That means an environment where people feel safe enough to speak up, to disagree, and to be their authentic selves without fear of punishment. Second, you have to actively combat discrimination and the systems that create unfair disparity. From there, it's a mindset shift. You don't just tolerate different styles, you embrace them as a resource for learning. And finally, leaders have to build a culture of curiosity, where the team's default setting is to learn from their differences, not let those differences create division. So, what are the big takeaways here? First, diversity is not a magic bullet. The add diversity and stir method is pretty much doomed to fail because getting the benefits takes real work, real investment, and deep cultural change. And maybe the most important thing to remember is this. A team where everyone is the same isn't actually better, it's just easier. The real lasting benefits only come from doing the hard, collective work of making those differences matter. I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. It's something called the diversity paradox. Research shows that while we overwhelmingly say we want diversity in our institutions, our companies, our government, in our personal lives, we tend to gravitate towards people who are a lot like us. And that creates this fundamental tension. So the real question for all of us is, how can we start to bridge that gap? Not just in our policies, but in our own daily practices and communities. Something to think about. Thanks for exploring that with me today.